Hello! It is 7 a.m. again, so I am back. We'll give people a little bit to drop in, and then we'll get started. It's a nice day today. It's Thursday, which means we're close to the end of the week, and it was raining today, so that was a nice thing to wake up to. I am also feeling a tad better. Hello! Oh, that's a cute little icon. I love it. Oh, okay. So, yesterday we, is that 2 L's? God damn. Okay. Yesterday, we did a lot of commenting and reviewing the code, which is super helpful for today, because now today we have a plan. I'm gonna go find that plan. And before I forget, so I definitely forgot yesterday, let me share people the registration link. So there's that. And then what I need is this. Cool. Here's our task list. Hello, you were here yesterday. Welcome back. Thanks for bearing with me yesterday. I know I was very sick. I am doing better today. I can somewhat breathe through my nose and have to blow my nose less frequently. But I also know that we did the boring stuff yesterday, so today will hopefully be a little better. And I did a little more prep work because I had the energy. And so I did some more database updates in between these streams just because I was like, hey, I need more things. So we're going to fix it again. But I also realized that we should also spend some time on what I've been doing with the database. I really haven't shown that on stream, but that might be something valuable, especially for people who aren't familiar with databases, aren't familiar with like parsing things into a database, using APIs in that sense, and then also those who are wondering about like, well, what am I really doing with it and why am I using it instead of just directly calling the API? Plus, like, just again, it's good to see like what we've done in the past and then jumping back into it. So we probably won't get to these features, or we might actually get to this one. I did not prep anything for the rest of these. But there's some stuff we have to do first because there's this concept called technical debt. Oh, hello. You were also here yesterday. Y'all came back for more. Or it's just that I'm the first stream of the day and y'all are like, what's new? What's next? Which I'm like, that's a good question. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it was informative. That's actually what I try to do with my streams is that there's a healthy amount of information that you can take and do what you will with it. And I generally will put it into practice throughout the stream. But these streams are as much for myself as they are for those who are watching to see what happens live, basically. There are some streamers who, nothing wrong with it, who prep everything beforehand and they're like, yep, just paste this line and do this line and yeah. And then I don't do that because I don't function well like that. I function better under pressure. Oh, that's fair. Yeah. That was yesterday. So like I said, we're going over a bit of yesterday before we really jump into it, basically waiting for people to jump in or not. And so the short of it is that this whole idea was throughout this week, you are hearing about how to like revise your resume and prep for interviews and learn about different fields that you might be interested in, which, while great, don't get me wrong, the last piece of it that really hasn't been talked about when I was looking at the schedule and being like, well, I want to do a tech workshop, but I don't know what to do. I want to see what everybody else has done in like the stream team and coaches program and whatnot. Was that nobody talked about revisiting old projects. And so when you make your resume, you always put projects on there and you're like, yeah, I have this like cool project from, XYZ hackathon, but then you never come back to it. And so with not coming back to it, you end up forgetting about it. Like, yeah, you may have a dev post to reflect on, but when you actually look at the code, which is what we found yesterday, we looked back at some old code that I did for April Global Hack Week, which was API week. And I didn't comment my code and there was things that we could do better. And I mean, some credit where credit is due is I was learning how to use Flask in under 2 hours, and I was learning really a lot of the stuff that I was also teaching you all, because I have the theory, but I haven't often put it in practice. I basically take a break 3 months of the year, or I take a break 9 months of the year because of my PhD. And so because of that, like, I'm coding along with you all, learning with all of y'all, etc. So again, the short version is that you're updating your resume, you find a project you think you should revisit. What do? Do you remove it from your resume? Do you come back and make it better? Do you add new features? So we're, like I said, coming back to an old GHW project, and we'll talk about like what we could have done. And so that was yesterday. And so something I did mention yesterday is like, what's the story? Like, how is this going to be a memorable project that people are going to be like, hey, this title is weird. Like, what's going on here? And then also, how do you make sure that when you do tell the story, it makes them remember you, makes them want to hire you? Because if you have a story that isn't something that aligns with their company values, they're going to be like, yeah, it was a cool project, but. And so, yeah, so I did some pre-work before yesterday's workshop where I was like, how do I even run this? Like, what do I even need to do this? And it turns out I never made a requirements file. Shame on me. I didn't even write in my README, just run Flask run. Shame on me. And I didn't really finish like parsing the data, which I did in the back. Like, I did it for myself. We'll talk about that today. And I also never really commented, which is bad. Like, I have 2 degrees in software engineering. I should comment. Yeah. So we talked a bit about resumes, selling yourself, what's the story, and then we decided that we would revise and revitalize the Shiver project, which was Bumble for Sharks. So for today, I'm going to be showing the database updates that I've been doing that I really haven't shown on stream, just because I think, again, it's really valuable. We're going to talk about storing coordinates in that database because I want location data in order to do this next feature, which is sharks in your area, like figuring out the distance to the nearest shark. And then because because I've really updated all the database stuff, then pretty much what I'll be doing is also removing any calls to that old file, because now that we have a database, we really shouldn't be using any of the shark data JSON. And then also doing some refactoring. This isn't really talked a lot about in streams either, where even when you're doing a hackathon project, it's pretty rare that you'll refactor. It's kind of like delete, go again, delete again. There's no like process for improving what you're changing. It's more just like, this code doesn't work, delete, try something else. And so because we have that kind of time, we're going to do that. And then the last bit was that I wanted to revisit types of documentation where for Python, you want to use PEP8 style comments. And that's a way to describe things. And then after the break, because I think we'll probably get that done within the hour, within about an hour 15, in the last 30 minutes, we'll be hooking up the Google API with the location to get distances between a given set of coordinates and some other sharks. And we'll pick like 3 of them and call that good. And then if we have more time, then we'll talk about, is there just crowdsourcing really? Because I have no idea what the answer to this is. Is there a way to optimize these calculations? Yesterday I had mentioned like, these are, this is what happens when I have slept and I feel better and I'm not sick. Just did that. So you jumped in right in time. I'm getting a PhD in hackathons. I'm not joking, that is my research topic, but that's a topic for another time. And no, I will not. This is my agenda, so sorry. You just get the screen. Hello, new joiners. Cool. So we have a pretty cool agenda, and yes, I have a cool PhD. Thank you. The people who are in industry do not think so at all, which is actually really rude. Like when I talk to students, they're like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And when I talk to professionals in industry, they're like, "Eh," which sucks. And it ends up being that I talk to industry professionals a lot, and not to students a lot, depending on like where I'm doing my dev. Like if I'm doing DevRel work, I'll talk to students, etc. But like I don't do that as the majority of my time. And so there's people that are in my network who talk to students a lot more than I do, and they're always like, "People love your PhD," and I'm like, the adults don't. Anyway, so it's a research topic. So if you go into like computer science education or engineering education or computing technology, basically stuff around that sphere, you'll find hackathon researchers. But hackathons, as I recently learned out, are not limited to technologists. They are like broader than that. There are groups out there who are leveraging hackathons to like figure out how to handle their data. So like astronomy is a popular one. I know about one in, I think, the Netherlands. And then there's another group, pretty small, that's doing like climatology and oceanography hackathons. And they do it completely different than what we know. Like we do individual things of like, hey, we're going to a hackathon. It's general. It's like 150 to 300 people, sometimes more. And we just sit there and we code a project and done. The oceanography and climatology people do a sequential hackathon where there's a hackathon with a specific goal where they're like, hey, we have this data, like do some analysis on it, and then we'll like evaluate everybody's analyses. And then the next stage is making a tool to build on those analyses. And that's the next hackathon and the next one and so on and so forth. And that's so different and like mind breaking sometimes. But okay, I'm getting off topic. We're going to talk about databases. And let me see, did I see anything else? Oh yeah, plenty, but whether researchers care about it is a whole other thing. There's a small group of us out there apparently that is very interested. But yeah, so databases. So I really didn't show a lot about what I've been doing. I just said I updated it, which is very hand-wavy, hand-waving included, and not fair. But there is... So I'm using SQLite. It's really popular for like Flask applications and whatever the alternative is that I'm forgetting what everybody else uses, is if not Django. People using Python, even sometimes JavaScript, especially when they're prototyping like an application or a project or whatever, people really like to use SQLite just because it's lightweight, super easy to get started. You don't need to download really anything like you would, say, PostgreSQL or Microsoft SQL. Like, you don't have to do anything except download a library and just go. The file is stored locally, etc. So it's very much used for small-scale stuff. If you're doing anything more than like a gig, you should really probably consider an actual database. And like that's a whole other stream of that's just a whole other stream. But it also makes it really easy to like just delete the database, remake stuff, etc. And so that leads me to this first line, which is drop table if exists sharks. And what I'm saying there is like, if the shark table exists in my database, just get rid of it, just delete it. Like there's a XKCD comic out there where there's a kid named Drop Tables or Bobby Drop Tables or something like that. And that's like a joke on how you can actually manipulate databases that aren't like, you've linked to them and you can manipulate them through the internet. So let's say like you have a form that you're submitting and you put drop tables or drop star tables or something like that. And you can drop like entire databases if you don't actually correct for that. And so that's some little fun facts about it. And I will not take language bashing in this stream. Sorry. I see that in chat. Don't do it. Just be nice. Every language has a purpose. So I pretty much then next say, if the table does exist, don't create this table again, because then I'm going to get an error. And at that point, I'm like, well, if the sharks table already exists, like I want to update it. But if it doesn't exist, then I want to create it. And so that's what this is doing here. So the content of this has been changing over time, where originally I was like, oh, it's just going to have the name, ratings, followers, etc. And that was from back in April, where I thought, hey, it'd be really interesting to see like if there's a way to interact with the data, create our own way of interacting with the original OSearch API. And then as I was working with it the other day, where I was like, I just want to get data in a database. Like, what do I need? So I started out with like a subset of them where I'm like, I definitely need the name. I need the attributes, so like age, gender, weight, length, species, and image. And then as I worked on stuff yesterday during the stream, realized I'm like, oh, but I actually need like one, better names. Originally species was type, which is not super descriptive, where species now is. So that's a good habit with databases, is that you want to be descriptive and know what you're getting. You want to know how to interact with it. And so there's also these two things that I've added in as well. And there's some more that we'll add in after the fact, where it was last online because I wanted to, like any like social media dating app, whatever it is, I really wanted to make sure that I'm like, well, when did the shark last surface? Because that's the way that OSearch works, is that when they tag sea animals, whenever they next surface high enough that it can be picked up by radar, antenna, satellite, etc., that they'll note that, hey, an animal has surfaced. Because some of these like animals live way deep in the sea or in the ocean. And so the next thing was bio. And so I did do some research. I had talked to yesterday about using ChatGPT, just like using their API, and maybe generating bios as I get new entries to this table. Unfortunately, I have to pay for it, so no. And what I was wanting it to do, I realized like it's just better to just, as I feel like it, generate these bios. But what I can do is that I can make sure that the field bio does not expect things to be not null. So you'll see these like slugs, name, and age say not null. And basically it means they should always have a value, like always. They should never be empty. And so my database will break or at least show an error if there's an instance where there's a data point that something doesn't have a slug, something doesn't have a name, an age, whatever. And so this database has gone through a couple iterations, even in the last 24 hours. Originally, I didn't have slug. I thought I could use slug as the ID. Turns out there's a few duplicates in the data. Go figure. So I ended up having to use ID, but instead of it being auto-incremented, I used the API's IDs. No idea if that'll help us, but good to know for later. But as for bio, because they don't exist for everyone, I realized I had to add in some context to my parser, the initsharktable.py, basically to make sure like, hey, if there is a bio in bios.json, so we can see the slug names here, which I had to fix this data object as well, then write it to my database if the bio exists. So that's what I'm saying here. So these are some small updates I did, like I said, in the last 24 hours. All very useful because now I have sharks with bios actually on the page. The text is too big, the CSS needs to be fixed, but that is a problem for not this stream. But I really wanted to prove that, like, yes, this could work. And so as a result, that page that we edited yesterday, that home page, also has changed. Where I have, for the home page, get end sharks, show the sharks, and then if we go back to the main page, now it actually loads the bios here, instead of just like bio here. So now it's actually like a good example of a possible sign-in page. Cool. So that's our database. Again, lots of changes. I did run through that, but this was all mainly to introduce you to the concept of databases if you're not familiar with it, and just like how people can, with SQLite, very quickly prototype things and change things, etc. Now, cool. I showed that. The thing that is not in the database is coordinates, which if we go back to our, let's see, like our initial getting attributes, there's nothing about location. There is about last update time, which currently doesn't use zping. On OSearch, it'll give you like a little blip about like, what is, zping? And it's basically when you don't get geographical data, but you do get at least a date time ping when they've surfaced for whatever reason. And so I want to add coordinates so that way I can eventually use the, what's it called? Google Maps API. Because I did do some more Googling there where I was like, all right, I want to calculate the distance. The distance between 2 points is a straight line. We live on an Earth that is not flat. So we can't just do a straight line because it'll cut straight through the crust of the Earth depending on how far our coordinates are. And with that in mind, I'm like, okay, well, that means you have to do angular calculations of the distance, like when you calculate the distance of a circle from point to point. I think it's called not a chord, but like the arc. And so that involves knowing like the Earth's like circumference and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, no, there's a library to do this. It turns out it is Google Maps, and Google Maps can be used to obviously find you like directions to a place, the like route, distance, all that kind of stuff. We just want the arc distance between 2 points. So with that in mind, if we go to the shark data that we have, which is again our sample source of like information, these are like 3 data points from that API I mentioned. basically so we don't have to keep pinging the API. We don't want to accidentally get our IP blocked by continuing to call it, or like reach a like a limit on the call and then figure out how long the limit is before it resets. But you can see that for each data point, there's a features object. There's a features array, which consists of a geometry object, which tells you the point. So as long as the type is point, we will get the coordinates of the last geographic location that they were found. And so to store these are pretty much latitudinal and longitudinal information. So we just need to get this piece of data, dump it in the database, rewrite the database with the API, and then we're good to go on last known location for the sharks. Hello, short version. We are revamping an old project from Global Hack Week April, where it was focused on API work, and now we're going back and fixing some of the stuff, making it cleaner, refactoring, refamiliarizing ourselves with the project. And I realized I forgot to mention this for the plan. What's the story? Yeah, so when we finish the Google API stuff, we'll come back, we'll talk about the story and how you might present this work to a possible employer, which is that the examples I have are two of them. One of them being, let's say you have an employer, they see the Shark Tracker project name and they're like, yo, what's this? So how do you answer that question? The second question being like, okay, cool, like I like a project. Pull up any file and tell me about it, and like tell me like the difficulties you ran into and what you had to do and why you coded it this way. Quick pause while I blow my nose. And talking makes me blow my nose faster. I'm going to have to time that for weird data collection. Right. Cool. So let's go ahead and run through these store coordinates super fast. Let me also put that elsewhere so I can keep that in my field of view while we work. Right. So we already have some understanding of properties. And the thing is with the shark data, let's put this so y'all can see. It's not in the properties object. It's just high level in the geometry object. So let's put this in metadata because this is more about like location or like actually species should probably be in attributes and not metadata. But yeah, cool. So we want latitude. We'll just make it lat and we'll say shark. Geometry, if I can spell, which on a good day sometimes. And then we also then want coordinates. So I talked about future proofing yesterday. And this is something to note, which is, okay, let's assume we'll always have this coordinates object. Cool, great. What if we didn't? Is it related to this type equals point part of it? If we were to write it scale, would we need to first check if it's a point, then get the coordinates? Or do we need to check for other things? And the thing is with this data sample, I don't actually know if there's other types. So for now, we're going to assume that everything is going to be a point geometry type. But if we do run into issues, we're going to have to debug that. So just saying it now. If it's not the same, we're going to have to figure out what the difference is. Alrighty. So we have long. Oh, and I want to get the 0 index, 0. Sorry for my typos, by the way, on top of me not being able to spell on a good day. My keyboard is unmarked, so, and I'm inconsistent apparently about using marks. What's it called? Quotation marks. Okay, so we have the latitude and we have longitude, sorry. Pretty straightforward. Again, this is under the assumption that coordinates will always be point objects in the geometry object. And so we're making this note again for future proofing. Cool. So we have our lat and long, super easy. And then for inserting it, we'll just add it to the end. Lat, long. We need to do that here as well, lat, long. And then we also need to do it here for our if-else statement. As you can see, we have if slug and bios versus if we don't have bios. We need that here, lat, long. And then we also need to add 2 more question marks to our values here to show that we've added 2 more values. Okay, so I'm not going to run this yet because that does not work yet because we haven't updated our database. This is to write to the database. Like this whole file is just initializing things, getting what we need, all that jazz. But our schema doesn't reflect what we're going to insert. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. And so I'm going to make a mistake on purpose. I'm going to see if someone's going to call me out. And I know there's a bit of a delay on stream, and I'm letting y'all think about it. But I did something on purpose that's wrong. Any guesses while I blow my nose again? No guesses. All right, that's okay. I don't know how many people here actually know about databases or not. I put integer, much like I did for really all of the other stuff. But you'll notice that I also made issues. I had issues here where I was like, yes, the length is an integer, but it's a string. The weight is an integer, but it's a string. So all of these should actually be changed. This should be text. I did an issue on purpose, and I also did it not on purpose. Oopsie. And so these coordinates are numbers, but they're not integers. They're decimal or floating or however you might refer to it in the languages that you're familiar with. But in SQLite, they're actually called real. So these should be real instead. The reason that we're not converting these is because they have the metrics, so like inches or pounds, which I'm assuming there's like a labeling consistency. But if there wasn't, what if it was like meters and grams or kilograms or something like that? I don't know what the standard is for oceanography. It might be that we use standard units. It might be that we use metric. But for now, for consistency's sake, better to use text and like process it later. And that would again require a database update, being like we need to know what the length unit is or the weight unit, and we add those fields, and then we need to parse that string. We're not doing that right now, but we thought about it, which is good to know. Is there anything else? No. Cool. So we have commas there, not there. Good. Okay. Logically, this should work. We'll see if it actually does. So let's go ahead and stop our server, and we'll run init shark table. And if it runs successfully, it should work. Cool. So it printed out the ones with bios, which means it worked. And now we have our database updated. Nice. Let's double check that content-wise. We have the ID, we have the slug, we have the name, we have the age, the gender, the weight, the length, the type / species. We have the image in which we would pull up its like capture image. I believe this is the last time it's surfaced. So 2023-11, it might be the last updated. And then for these, we have bios. And finally, we have our latitude and longitudinal coordinates. Nice. Oh, it makes it worse. If you don't know how to send, like if my fingers, when I like go and put my hands on my keyboard are in the wrong place, I just get garbage. I get spaghetti. I get words that don't work. Like I spell them in the correct location, but I don't get the right letters because I'm in the wrong location, if that makes sense. So if you would like to see, as I showed yesterday, no markings whatsoever. Whoops. My cat has come to say hello. Oh, no, it's because food hasn't gone off yet. It's food time for her. Will you say hi to people on stream? All right, that's a no. Yeah, she's not. She wants her food right now. Her feeder will go off. Alrighty, my arm is unscathed though, so that's good. Be nice to your cats, people. It's actually my first mechanical keyboard. I really like it. It's really nice. I want the, there's a white version of it and it looks really pretty. I should not get it because I have enough keyboards. I have more. Ooh, GIS. You unlocked my favorite topic-ish. So very cool. GIS, there's a good amount of data about the color scheme and maps because of accessibility. Yes, this is a really common issue across the board. One of my, I think I did a social good stream maybe that talked about how to use accessibility tools to work on development. Because a lot of people are not familiar. Like people might be like, oh yeah, more of color blindness, but what about dyslexia? And how do you like account for that? Or what about like how to develop in the first place where you make things that are accessible from the start? And the answer is there's a lot of accessibility tools out there. People have made Chrome extensions to simulate disabilities for like color blindness or dyslexia or high contrast for those who have low quality vision. There's also screen readers for those who just can't see at all. So it really just depends on like someone's disability. There's also ways that you can interact with websites by just like tabbing through. Oh my God. This makes me so happy because this is like my nerd topic in the sense that I am a disability accessibility dev and like try to promote that through my DevRel work. So this makes me happy. My cat's name is Peanut Butter. She is spicy. Okay, back on track because I do want us to get through a decent amount of stuff after spending most of yesterday commenting, which was needed, but kind of boring. Database is good to go. So what was next on our... Oi! Come on. Sorry. Did the wrong thing. Hold on. Right. We stored the coordinates. Now we replace all of the Shark data JSON calls. Yes. There's like a few. But so for the event that I run, we do disability accessibility first. Like it's the way that I phrase it is it's not an afterthought, it's a forethought, where from the start of our planning, we are considering accessibility in every stage. So that's things like closed captioning and making sure that like our floors are physically accessible from like covering cables with our ramps and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we do recordings and scripts and a whole bunch of stuff. You name it, we do it. It's not perfect. It never is. Our stream setup is a nightmare, but it means that everybody gets closed captioning. It means that everybody can like read script. It means that like people have ownership of their like workshops, a whole bunch of stuff. That's again, that's a whole other stream. Yeah. So we are next going to replace all the Shark data JSON calls. I don't think there's too many, but I wanted to show you the process of doing that again. We did that a bit yesterday, and I wanted to go through and debug a little bit, just because it's like, yeah, you're going to have to do that. You need to follow through and finish up what you were working on. Cool. So I'm pretty sure this is the only place that actually uses it. So we only have actually one to-do, which is nice. So it looks like, what are we doing in card? Let's go to card. Put this over here. Close that because we don't need Shark data anymore. So we have for Shark and Sharks. Actually, then I think we just need to update how we call things. If I have capacity and depending on the topic, I will do my best. Chances are I'm already including disability accessibility in my work sometimes. For this one, I can't because it's Flask and I don't know enough about it. But if I do JavaScript stuff, I'll usually include like libraries or linking to stuff that you can use. If anything, you'll probably course correct me, which I happily welcome. That's something I welcome in all of my streams, aside from language bashing. Language bashing not allowed. But I do like, I know that I don't know things and I want people to feel like they can work with me on stuff. So I'm like, if I do something wrong, like tell me. Or if you notice an issue, tell me. Or if you're like, hey, there's a library that does this way better, like tell me, because we're all here to learn together. So same goes for accessibility. If you happen to know Flask libraries for accessibility, I will definitely look into it. Nice. So last stream yesterday, we basically went through this whole old project, and we were going through and understanding what was going on, because I don't remember what I did back in April, and that's a problem. Also, I don't have arrow keys, so bear with me. I'm doing too many things at once mentally. So as a result, something must give, and apparently that is my ability to use the arrow keys that don't exist on my keyboard. But yeah, so yesterday we went through, commented, understood the project, which is from back in April, and we want to just update it, refactor it, basically polish it up, and so that way we'll have a little bit of a simulated interview at the end of this stream to talk about what we did for, like, hey, like, here's this funny little project. What's the story? Or, hey, let me show you like 300-ish lines or like 100 lines of code and what I did and what I ran into and blah, 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 blah. So all of this is leading up to a simulated interview. But in order to get there, we need to be familiar with the project, fix it up so we're actually proud of it, and then make sure that it is a good example of good code. And that can range from clean code to self-documenting code to just good coding practices, which we didn't do last time. So we're doing that now. Okay, so we've commented this out. Whenever I'm refactoring, I comment out what I had. I don't just delete it, because I'm like, hey, what if it doesn't work? What was my last thing? And like, some IDE/text editors have a limit to how many things you can undo. And yeah, this is like 4 lines. If you're trying to delete like 120 lines and you're, fixing things and adding individual things, testing, debugging, you're going to lose it. So this is also why pushing to Git is useful. I tend to push not as frequently as I should, which is a problem for myself. But I really want to show like safe refactoring practices. I know I'm not using like replace all, because it's not that simple right now. We're literally refactoring this. Cool. So in this one, we actually just want to get all sharks, which if we look up at the function above, yes, it is called Relic because it is old. And a lot of people leave their projects in their resumes and forget about it until they're asked about it. And then you're like, oh yeah, I did that project. What did I do? Which is a bad time for an interview. 0 to 10, do not recommend. I have done that. It is, don't do that. All right, so we have get all sharks. We know that this will get the database connection from this function. We don't need to worry about that. It does it for us. We get all of our sharks. This should actually be pluralized, or plural, because we want to have self-documenting code-ish. So that way, if we read it, it makes sense. We are getting all of the sharks. We stored the sharks. We returned the sharks. Done. There is no comment needed here because it is self-documenting. So again, good code. Right, so we just get all the sharks. We select everything, which can be useful. Notice how here I've selected name, image, and bio. That might change in the future where maybe we need to choose specific properties. And so this function may change, may become a polymorphism, or that range. Is it polymorphism or is it frick? No, it's not polymorphism. Well, it can be. It's overloading a function. Yeah, that. Sorry, we're dredging deep in my brain of old software concepts, which I should know. But I usually Google it because I'm like, yeah, I spent 5 years in school. Like, I'm already spending another 5 years in school. I have other things in my head now. Right. So we got all the sharks. It looks like with this one, we just loaded everything, got all of them, and then just printed an example. So we can actually just get rid of this. Very simple replacement, should be fine. What we do need to replace, though, is in this one, we need to figure out what's going on here and do the appropriate replacement. So here is something I think is a downside of SQLite that may be something that I'm not doing in my code, which is that just I don't know about it, is that I could store everything as a dictionary, but right now everything is stored as an array of objects in my glad you could make it. I have been waking up early because I am violently jet lagged, which I planned for this week. So yeah, so we don't need the ID, which so let me show you what I mean. Because I think it's commenting like this for now. Okay, so if we were to pull data, the way this would look is actually like ID slug name, blah, 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 blah. So this is what it looks like when we get it back from Python, like the way that we've been retrieving it through the SQLite like library. So this is what allows us to interact with it. You can see that there's obviously the connection, we're getting a specific row, blah, 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 blah. But in order to do that here, which I have acknowledged this is not a good way to do it, is that what we're going to do is just be like, well, we know we want the name, and the name is going to be 0, 1, 2. So we just replace that with 2, right? Do we need name again? No. Age, we should actually probably add that to this. So we're going to copy that. And that will be, oh, it was stage of life. Okay, so this is what I mean about like keeping track of like what you've named and renamed. While it is good to retain names, sometimes it's not conducive and sometimes it is. So like species versus type, I had to remove type and just put species back because type just doesn't make sense. Type is confusing in the programming context. It made more sense to just be like, well, but stage of life, while that makes sense, age is probably a simpler thing to process. I mean, but opinions differ, and that's something that maybe we come back and we're like, yeah, let's go fix it. And that's where you would do like replace all and find it in your like files and whatnot. But because it's just age, we need to go 0, 1, 2, 3. So we just do 3. And so we're going to go through and we're going to do that for all of these. This is 4. Yeah, 4. Type became species. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm doing this manually because I don't want to make stupid mistakes. It looks menial. It looks tedious. So yeah, it is. So currently OSearch, which I have somewhere in my windows, hang on. Maybe I deleted it. So OSearch shows us information. Let's see. So here's a great lady. They show us a cute little visual of young of the year, juvenile, subadult, and adult. And we could use age. We could use stage of life. We should probably actually leave stage of life as it is. But for typing purposes, I'm more likely to make typos typing stage of life than I am age. And so that's another like consideration you have to ask yourself. Is this easy to type? Is this readable? And does it mean the same thing? And that's why I switched to age initially, because I'm like, I'm going to make typos with stage of life. It is actually recommended that you copy paste. But I was like, and it really could go either way. It's developer preference at that point, which can be good, but sometimes bad. All right. And then image, species was 7, 8. Let me double check. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. And then length 3, 4, 5 is weight. Unfortunately, we lose descriptiveness by doing this, as you can see. We just know things as like shark 1, 2, 3, 4. This is not helpful. And this is where, again, naivety comes into play, where it's like, well, can Jinja 2, like, will they let me comment it? Probably. Do I want to? Not really, because I hate HTML commenting. Am I acknowledging and accepting that I am making my life miserable by doing this? Yes. So 0, 1, 2. Okay, 2. All right. So that should work. Oh, and then let me remove that because I forgot about it. Yeah, so technically, we've replaced everything. I didn't save that. Oops. Oh, that's because I did that. Okay, no, we're fine. And yeah, so we have officially refactored this out. So very simple, but tedious, necessary. Let's close that tab. We replaced it all. So here's another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is, what is a singleton? Let me blow my nose first. We're not going to answer. Okay, cool. So this is actually great timing. I think Flask is a model view controller paradigm or design pattern, but I want to talk about singletons. Singletons are nice. Singletons are great for when you're making video games. If you're doing like a simple like Java game, etc., you want to have a single instance of an object across the entirety of your project. You never want it to create more than once. And so what that means is we need to make sure that we check if the class exists. And for Java, that's actually really easy. And this is where I learned about singletons. You can basically just say like if the class object itself exists, like just don't do it. And if it doesn't exist, then make a new one. Python, I've actually never done it before because that wasn't what I was like taught in when I was in undergrad. So we're going to learn how to do that. And by learn, I mean I pulled up a website to do it because I was like, this is better than me fumbling around. And so it looks like they have a couple different ways of writing it. Unfortunately, I hate Geeks for Geeks because they don't like how I don't sign in and they can just shove it, which is, we're going to zoom all the way out so we can get the code. Let's see. I know it's super small. I can barely read it, but it's because I don't want to deal with this. Module level, simple module 1, 2, 3, shared variable, import, simple module 2, shared variable, blah, 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 blah. No. This is a singleton class. Yeah, that's more of like what I'm familiar with, the classic one. This stuff. Which we're not subclassing. So we're just gonna copy. Oops. I didn't want to reset it. I wanted to zoom out. I can't read that. I hate this website. I hate that. All right, let's find a different one. Singleton. Oh, that was for other stuff. Python singleton example. There we go. Sorry. Okay. Reading. Looks like all of the Python 3 classes. That's cool. There we go. Pythonic implementation of singleton. Let's zoom in for everyone on stream. Straightforward implementation. Instance is none. If instance is none. What is CLS? I guess it's the object that they're using. Okay. If that, do that. Otherwise. At the expense of doing CLS instance lookup, result can be assigned a name and reused in the return statement. The above pattern is the basis. Oh. This is why you don't need to use Geeks for Geeks. Just use the documentation. All right, let's copy this. So to run us through again, a singleton means that there should only be a single instance ever existing in the history or like runtime of a project. So let's just copy and do that. I'm not sure about this, but for our purposes, I don't think we really need to worry too much about it. And so the reason I'm talking about a singleton object, by the way, to the original point of this, is that we have all these functions. And we are getting a database connection all the time. And this is a lot of repeat work. So in the scope of making good refactoring decisions, because this is happening each and every time, this should actually probably exist in a class. But if we put it in a class, what if we could make multiple instances of that class? Now you have to deal with things like concepts like threading or like locks, where you don't want to accidentally open the database at the same time and have someone write and someone's like retrieve at the same time, because then you end up in a deadlock where the program doesn't know like what is it supposed to do. It's like the ADHD moment where you're like too many things and you're just like spinning in circles. And if you're not familiar with that, you probably don't have ADHD. I'm not a doctor. Don't. Yeah. Anyway, so that's why I wanted to talk about refactoring this using a singleton, and also to move any and all database functions out of the app.py file. Because as you can see, like right now we have a section that is database stuff. Then we have a section that's OAuth stuff. And then we have a section that's route stuff. And the fact that we have all these discrete sections and app.py is literally just like run the file probably means that we should start refactoring into files as this grows. And this is what I meant by scalability adjustments, refactoring, and showing that you've come back to your code and really thought about design choices that you made in the past versus now. So there is rhyme and reason to my madness, but we're gonna work on that. So new file, we'll name this b.py, which is not a great name, but for right now it's fine. So we've pasted this logger object. We're going to replace this with, let's make a database. No, that's not descriptive. Shark database. Let's make a database for now and change it later. I don't like that name. And to be honest, if we, in the spirit of Java, we should name things the same thing. So let's rename it database. And unfortunately, now you see that there's database.db and database.py. And I'm like, I don't like that, but that's a problem for another time me. That's not a problem for current me. I think we'll actually leave CS here for now, and that's okay, because it already does the setup for us. What we do need to do now is go and copy all of our database functions and pop it over here. No idea why that didn't work the way I wanted it to. But yeah. And let's go get some imports from that, because now we don't need to have our SQLite import in app.py. It just needs to be here. And we don't need, I don't think we need JSON anymore, because JSON was just for the shark.data or sharkdata.json that we were using. So we can remove that. We do need Flask, we do need OS, we do need .n, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Is there anything else that's database related that we need to remove? Routes. Okay. So now obviously this doesn't exist. So I think it's from database, import database. And then we do, we also want to, let's see. Connection. Oh, I see all of these close the connection. Do we need to keep the connection open or should we close it? Let's update these to self dot for now. I think should be fine, right? Self is not defined. Self. All right. It's been a minute since I've done Google. Hang on, or done Python. Self does not exist. Python code. Yeah. Nope. Didn't like that. Why does thou hate me? What do you not like? You know what? Fix it. From typing. Okay, it didn't. Fine, then don't use it. Don't. Let me check stream. My friend, I do believe you need to increase your stream quality because I am checking on Twitch and it is fine for me. And this is pretty zoomed in. It actually is irritating for me because I'm like, I can't read anything. But I get it. What's going on here? Yes, it is. It's right here. All right, let's go back. Time to blow my nose again. Alrighty. Why do you hate me? Self is an argument to another function. Self.year released. This is what I get for not using Python in a minute. Def change self. This is back in 2019. All right. Python 3. This is class reference internal function. There we go. Calling a private function. There we go. Oh, maybe it's that. Now implicit this. Define that. Do that. Cool. Let's go do that. This one doesn't have self. Do you need to have a... What if you have a class? Did I do it wrong? No, that's fine. I don't know why they're doing this. And I don't feel inclined to figure it out right now. They have def underscore. Okay, so let's do that because we don't want anyone else to get the database connection while we're at it, by the way. Hey, well, let's see if that works. Self dot underscore. Get the dang thing. Come on. Not defined. Highlands. View problem. Why do you hate me? Just do it. Get DB connect. Yeah, I know it's not defined because I'm trying to use self. What? Anybody got any ideas in chat? This should just work. When were these? 2012. Okay, maybe we're way out of date. Let's change that to anytime past year. Reference, no, use self. There we go. Oh, right. So for context of the problem. So what I'm doing is I'm refactoring this into a class. We've used singleton to make sure that the object only exists once. So when an object is created, this shouldn't exist in any fashion otherwise. But we also want to add other pieces to this, being that we want it to call get all sharks, get end sharks, get shark, whatever. And right now it doesn't like get DB connection when I'm calling it in all of my other sub functions. And so these are all public functions. Anyone can use these, so to speak. We don't want get DB connection to be a public function, which is why we have the denotation for private function. But the issue that I'm getting right now is that it's saying get DB connection is not defined. And when I've passed in self and I want it to reference itself, it doesn't like it when I've done this, because then it says self is not defined. And I don't know that I've ever had that. I've actually never had that. You know what? Right, now that we fixed it. Thank you for having me talk that out. Rubber ducks are very nice. self dot. I can't believe I forgot about that. You need to have self in the parameter in order to use it. Duh. Can you tell I don't do Python very often? All right. Now we have our object. It is refactored. It is a singleton. Now we go back to our app, and in our setup area of sorts, we then say, let's see. This will actually be after n, and we'll just do database db equals database. I'm pretty sure is how you call it. Not yelling at me. And then we do db dot. And there we go. db dot. Perfect. And just for the sake of db dot. Sick. Now let's break it. Let's see if it works. Flask run. Do the thing. Break. Oh, well, I haven't refreshed the page yet. Alrighty. That was not the file I wanted. Did I close it? No, I didn't. Refresh. Brick. Oh. Didn't break. I'm actually quite disappointed about this. I wanted it to break so we could try and figure something else out because I figured something would be wrong. But no, that worked great. All right, cool. Singleton done. And refactoring done. Because now we have all of our database functions here. We can just keep adding and it'll be part of the class. There might be ways to make this even more refactored, but for right now, the point that we were going for was just cleaning up app.py. There's just way too much in there. And now you can see it was like 100 lines or 120 lines. Now it's 80 lines. So we can keep going and refactor, say, the routes. That's a whole other thing with blueprints that I was looking into yesterday. I wasn't a huge fan of doing that for today, so we're just not. That'll be something I might do on my own to understand better because that required a YouTube video. And I'm like, if I involve the YouTube video, it's not stream worthy yet. I don't know what I'm doing. But let's see. So we made some comments yesterday about like what we should do. We didn't randomize it. We did add the bios and put that in the database. I didn't generate any homepage. I haven't re-put the session stuff back in just because it was broken. And I never figured that out. So whatever. This shows, I don't know what it shows. Let's go to it. We haven't actually tested if it works in that sense. We've tested that the homepage works. Oh shit, it did work. Oh yeah, the CSS is broken, by the way. Like that's a future problem. But now we have all the information, image, name, gender, all sorts of fun stuff. Love it. And this is for all 417 records. Or sharks. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to be scrolling for a minute. I don't know where the page down is on my keyboard because I don't know anything about my keyboard. Okay, I'm bored of scrolling. Point is, we did it. Next. All right, let's go back to... We can close that now. Close that. Close that. Close that. Alrighty. We did that. And then PEP 8 comments. We are doing fantastic on time, by the way. Alrighty. PEP 8 comments. Style guide. So we're going directly to the documentation. Because for documentation, you should use the documentation. We're not going to check indentation. Visual Studio Code should be doing that for us. And if it is, that's a problem for another thing. What I really want is the functions. Blank lines, source file, importing. So there is some stuff about like import should not be comma through things unless you're like getting multiple functions. What I really want this is module level. That's a problem for another time. What I really want is the functions. Give me the PEP 8 for functions. We don't need trailing comments. Comment block comments. Inline comments, no. Nope. Nope. If I'm kind of, oh. I guess that makes sense, but that's kind of, That's a problem for another time. Documentation tricks. Here we go. Okay, so it's not that it's PEP 8, it's PEP 257. So I was right, it was something in the hundreds, but I got the number wrong entirely. So whatever. So this is what I mean, is that I talked about this yesterday, about comments that are good, that depending on the documentation styling you use for the language that you're using, so Java is like Java docs, Python is obviously PEP 257 or PEP whatever it is that you're referencing, because there's all these different rules or guidelines that are basically like PEP 1, PEP 3, PEP whatever. And so 257 is what docstrings should look like. So in Java, it's Java docs. In Python, it's docstrings under this. And so we want to return what the value is. And we might need to say like what's going on if it's a complex function. If it's not, it should be a self-documenting function. And so I've mentioned this in passing a couple times, so let's come back to it, where we're going to dev database. And so for this one, we're going to need a docstring, because this is not readable. This is not self-documenting. This is not. It really isn't. And we don't need the comment. So this is returning a singleton instance. And there was something about single lines. Yeah. When it's a single line, we just want that. So now we ask, is this self-documenting? Get DB connection, returns connection. Honestly, self-documenting. And so this is where documentation varies by company or by open source project, etc. There are standards that or guidelines that they should have already set, and if they haven't, you might need to be the one to set them. Which is to say that sometimes, even if it's self-documenting, you still might want to put the docstring and comment. So let's say I was in a company that still wanted it. I would still have to like return a like deep database SQLite, SQLite like connection. But if it was a company that's like, yes, we prioritize self-documenting code, then I would not need to do this on this one, because it's self-explanatory. The function name is indicative. Sorry, the method name, because it's in a class, is indicative. You can read what's going on. It connects to the database. This one doesn't quite make sense. This would be an inline comment if somebody really, really wanted it. But at the end of the day, it's returning a connection. There's like 3 lines. These are great functions. They're so short. But you can see this is happening multiple times. So the reason I didn't initialize it here is because every time these functions open the database, they also close it. And so this is the question of, do you want to leave a database open to be altered, or do you want to close it after each operation? And the answer is you should probably close it. Just for privacy concerns and security reasons, I feel like the answer is you should close it. So yeah. So is there anything else that's not self-documenting? We get all sharks. I feel like that's indicative. Get end sharks. That kind of makes sense. That's indicative. Get shark. Kind of indicative because there's no plural. A little bit of a longer function. I think it's fine, to be honest. I think we're good. So we're good to go on that one. We don't need to comment that. Let's go back to this. There is more notes about what we could do. And the reality is, probably doesn't make sense just yet to go through and comment these. It would be nice, but the reality is I'm gonna have to go back and be like, what's going on here? Type the doc string to figure out, to tell you what's going on here. And I don't want to do that right now because it is time for, I believe, a break. Yes, it is time for a break. When we come back in about, let's say 10 minutes, we will focus on getting the Google API set up and going so we can get a distance from an existing set of coordinates to that shark. And then we'll get the story of doing some sample interview simulations. And then we'll close up for the day and y'all are free to go after that. So like I said, 10-minute break. We'll come back at 8:20. So go get water, go to the bathroom, walk around, stand up. If you can take a nap in 10 minutes, go for it. I'm going to go grab a snack. Okay. We have another minute, but I wanted to double check we're on track, which I think we are. We did all the minor improvements. Yay. Let's see. So we're finishing this one. Yeah, we're not getting to that in time. That's fine. Let me go pull up the slides as well. Slides. Thank you. There we go. All right, that one. We'll come back to that one. Cool. All right, let's get rolling. It is 8:20, and I have the Breakfast of Champions cookie. I already had breakfast like 2 hours ago, so this is breakfast dessert. Oh. Okay. So, also did my research this time. Imagine that. Stream goes so much better when you have a little more extra prep. I mean, I did prep. I did do a lot of extra work beforehand, but like there was more work that needed to be done on top of that. It is what it is. To be fair, I didn't plan to be sick, so. All right. So we are using the Distance Matrix API, predominantly because it does all the Google Earth shape math. It does math for us basically, and accounts for the fact that the Earth is not flat. So love that. While there's all these extra things that it can do for us, I literally just want the like direction, no travel time, no, not just distance between 2 points in a sphere. So there's a couple ways to interact with it. It says where you can use just URL requests and whatnot. And while we could like test that out, I do have that tab open. I'm not going to because we don't need to. There's also a Python client, which means we just import the library. Generally, ish. Yeah, close enough. And we also already have coordinates. You'll see that this one is using cities, but that's not all. So let's see. I have. Let's see. This is not that. Stack Overflow is my friend. It's not very accessible though. I really hate how inaccessible it is. So there's a couple different libraries out there. There's like GeoPy and whatnot, but I wanted Google Maps just because it's generally going to be more updated and more people are likely to use it, and etc. It just makes more sense. So, yeah, cool. It's not for me. Yeah, so they use latitude and longitude. Again, they're using GeoPy and Geodesica here, whatever that is. There's so many libraries out there. It's really nice, but sometimes you're like, what? And the thing is that different communities use different libraries. So kind of like the hackathon thing I mentioned about how there's like completely different hackathons out there. There's completely different libraries out there that you'll just never run into if you don't work in those spaces. Anyway, so we are using Google Maps. I already have an API key. If you just go and like Google Maps API, it'll tell you how to generate one. So that's already in my environment because I didn't want to accidentally dox myself on stream because I have a bad habit of doing that. Rip. This one talks more about like cities, which we don't really need because we won't have cities, but we do have geocoordinates, as this one says. So we are going to just pretty much copy because that's what we do on the internet. You'll notice I'm not using ChatGPT because I don't use ChatGPT if I don't have to. Yeah, well, I don't need to use it. It has its moments where it's useful, and I predominantly use it to generate stuff for me, and then I edit it after. And unless I'm doing something that's really time consuming, like scripting for complex data, then I'll be like, here's a sample of the data, give me like a script to do it, and then I'll build on that, just because I don't want to spend the time thinking about it. But I don't like use it to solve my problems because it lies. Yeah. Anyway, copying and pasting. Cool. So on this one, they just say get your API key. We just need that. Key is equal to that. Which I think is, oh, what did I name it? Maps API key. Hang on. Let me double check the name. Oh, wow. Pass me really made it easy. Pass me being 4 a.m. me. Wow, I'm so nice to myself. Current me has low standards. Cool. So we have all this junk. So let's break it down. Let's do this one at a time. And do that. And do that. No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like that better. Imagine. There we go. Okay, now I can read that. So the way that they're doing this is they access the client. We already have a maps key, so we don't need to worry about it. And then we have the distance between 2 points, giving their latitude and longitude of each of them. It looks like they're converting them to strings. So now remember, we stored these in the database, and this is the part where I haven't actually practiced any of this, or I'm just not copy pasting. This is the part where you actually have to think about it. Font size. Really? Here on the code or in the Stack Overflow? Yes, good. Well, your mileage may vary. I'll zoom in a little bit. No, that's not zoom. That's open new tab. There we go. It's so big. Is that better? The delay on streams is rough. Does give me time to clear my nose though. Looks so small on the stream. Really? It looks like enormous on my preview of the stream. No. All right. Let's go to Twitch. Let's see what's going on. Because if this has been a problem the whole time, then like I gotta fix it. And I did upgrade my monitors recently. Hang on, we gotta wait for ads. So it might be the pixel density because I did upgrade. But this is the like lower quality monitor. It's my gaming one. It's not that huge. The other one's bigger. And the other one's 4K. This one is not the 4K that y'all are looking at. All right, let's see. What's going on here? What happened? It finally loaded. Yeah, 1080p. Okay, yeah, I can see how that's not the most readable right now. It is more readable right now. I would say double check your stream quality, but it is readable. But if there's further issue, just let me know. God, what zoom is this at? Can I like see what zoom it's at? View. No, I can't. This is monstrous. Oh my gosh. All right, we'll finish up. We gotta finish. Cool. All right. Alrighty, let's get done. Okay, so we did that. Blah 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 blah. Let's put this in function. No, we should test this. We do have this actually. Did I make this not null in the schema? Yeah, I made it not null. And everything had it, so it's fine. All right, let's see. We're gonna just put junk data for a sec, so I can prove that this works, and then we'll connect it. .0, and then we're gonna go to not bios but shark data. That's fair, but you were also on a 13-inch screen. I don't think I could even watch YouTube on that. I would be squinting regardless. So All right, well, good to know for the future. I will make sure my stuff is bigger. I didn't think of that when I upgraded my. I've been having a number of issues with my setup. So I've had issues with microphone volume and with screen size issues. So noted, trying to be on top of it, but I'm always gonna miss stuff. And then we have this, and change that. Man, I really hope they're in the correct order that I think they are. Moon's walking. Sure. Oh, wait. Walking. What modes are there? What? I don't want walking distance. Good point. That is very fair. What am I doing? Right. Google Maps. Distance. What am I doing? I wanted mode. Technically we should be looking at the documentation, but Google documentation isn't always nice. We'll just go to the overview. Distance in kilometers or miles. Travel mode, driving. Oh no. This is not going how I thought it would. It's okay. That's what we're doing. Interesting. Using a road network. Directions are calculated specify default driving mode is used following driving. Ew. That's awkward. That is not what I thought it would do. I thought it would just give me distance. Rats. So what I'm looking for is not travel. And yeah. Didn't check for that. Cool. Let's go back to Stack Overflow. And what did I use originally? Stack Overflow was using. Yeah, I didn't see that. I should have read it. Here's the math. This just has cities though. But I guess by default it's driving, so alrighty, to GeoPy. We're gonna need to install GeoPy. And is it going to, there we go, great circle distance. Yeah. We're gonna do that. Oh, there we go. Taking lat long tuples. Okay, let's go swap to that. My bad. And I am aware that y'all can't see this, so don't stress. This is not as critical. What is critical is Google Maps did not work out the way we thought it would. So we're gonna get rid of that. We don't need Google Maps anymore. It didn't do what I wanted it to. Oops, should have done more research. My bad. And we're using GeoPy instead. All right, that may or may not be big enough. Let's do it one more time for giggles. Let's go install it. So we are, let's see, where is the terminal? New terminal. Ooh, our Flash server's still up. Whoopsie. All right. Install GeoPy. And in the meantime, from GeoPy, this is address and coordinates, distance. Here we go. That, and not that, and we want that. Nope, we want this. All right, my bad. All right, so let's make this distance equals close parenthesis. Oh, what happened? Oh, that was the answer that I copied. My bad. Oh, but that's a good way to check it. That's even better. I was like, oh, how are we gonna make sure this works? Fantastic. I love it. So we have data that we can use. Sick. Okay. This is good. Technically we should be doing this in a different file, but that's a future me problem for our hot sec. And let's dump that back into one whole line. Nope, I wanted that. Alrighty. Cool. And then great circle, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Blah. All right. And then just a quick check. People can read. Yes. That finished installing. And we're going to run this at debug mode because I don't want to run the whole terminal. So start debugging. Didn't like it. No model. But I did. I installed it. What are you talking about? Yes, thank you. I'm aware. What happened? Debug? No. Output? Nope. Command. That's what it is I need. Oh. Package is not found. That would explain what happened here. On the GeoPy. Yeah, that would explain why it didn't work. I just assumed, like a silly person. Okay. Now we should get GeoPy. It is thinking. There we go. Yes, proceed. Sometimes I like Conda, sometimes I don't. There we go. Cool. Let's go ahead and debug again. Let's see if it works this time. Great circle not defined. That's okay. I will take that because that means I didn't do something. That would explain a lot. Not that. Great circle. And restart. Now we're getting there. Let's see. All right, we have the objects here on the left. Let me roll that out. Now we're going to step through it. And do we have the same distance? We do. Fantastic. We are getting somewhere now. What if we pick two sharks and get the distance between them? So let me just stop that for a sec. Get and sharks. I want two sharks. But I want the distance. db.get. I guess I can get an individual shark. What does it take? Wrong one. I want to close that. I don't think that's open. Viewport. Yep, we don't need that anymore. Shark 1. Shark 2. Don't need that. Don't need that. That. Or that. What I'm looking for is shark data, and I want the IDs. Cool. Okay, so we have get shark by ID. And then db.getShark. We need one more ID. This one. I don't know what sharks these are. And we're going to name this shark 1. Oops. Wrong page. And shark 2 equals. Okay. And now we run that again, just make sure that it works the way we want it to. When creating a point from a sequence, it must have no more than 3 items. Oh, duh. I didn't get the longitudinal data. Shame on me. What I want is... Actually, how did they represent it? These are tuples. Okay, so if we're working with it, we want tuples. So we'll need to construct that then. Let's change this to shark1 location and copy that. Actually, not copy it. Finish this, and then we'll put this here. There we go. And we actually don't want that one. We want the schema. That's what it is we want. There we go. Schema, and we want to... This is toward the end, so we could do -1, -2, but that's unreliable if this table changes. And I would love to know if there's a better way to refer to these instead of the individual indices, but that's a problem for future us. 1, 2, that's right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Shark1 11, shark1 12. Alrighty, now we can duplicate this and verify this actually works. Shark 2. All right, let's test this. Start debugging. I did a silly mistake where I didn't verify I want the location. Whoops. Location. There we go. If I can type today, goodness. Run, start debugging. Okay. Neat. We now have distance between sharks, which means we can do all sorts of different distance things. Let's put this in a function for the sake of sanity. And we will make this a separate function for now in the app.py file, but I don't know where it should go eventually, and that's a problem for another time. Because the point is, we proof of concept proved that things return distance. Oops. We proved that we can get the distance, and that's a great way to take a pause and do the wrap up that we talked about. ID1 and ID2. ID1, 2, sick. Get rid of that. Awesome. So we have our functions. This should be ID2. Cool. Let's go back to that. We have location with Google, not Google, GeoPy. We don't need this. Cool. So now we have sharks in your area, at least a concept of it. So we figured out the distance between at least sharks. So we kind of did that. Not for the stream, the rest of these. But let's wrap up by talking about what's the story. So far we've done a lot of revision. We've done refactoring. We've cleaned up the code. We've added comments. We've made sure that we finished some of the stuff that we actually needed, which is getting the data into a database, and then updated that as we needed to go through this. My child is screaming, Peanut, please. Peanut is upset that I am not paying attention to her as normal. Only like 10 more minutes. Less than that even. But yeah, so we've done a lot of cleaning up the code and making it more readable. And so now what do we do with it? Like, what was the point of all of this slow process of going through the old project and doing things? And the short answer is that we wanted to do a resume chat. So we've improved it. Again, commenting, etc. We've asked ourselves what would look best for future employers, and of course, improving it for ourselves. And so the reform story then is we still have Shark Tracker called Shiver. It is still Bumble for sharks. May or may not be great for learning about the oceans. Yes, indeed. She is caterwauling through the halls. I'm actually curious if the mic will pick her up or not. You can probably hear her toy in the background as she's throwing her wormy around. And so this was also an exercise in good development. We came back and relearned about a couple things. In the past, we learned about ChatGPT, Auth0, Flask, etc. I can't. I want to be done with stream. I want to make sure y'all we all wrap up and everybody gets a takeaway, and then I can go give just unadulterated attention to my cat, which she deserves. So we learned about things, but then we added more to that. We learned more about refactoring, and let me put this, refactoring programming principles with singleton and PEP 257, I think it was, and doc strings in general. So we learned more about like cleaning up the code, etc. We didn't go and like test anything, and that would be a great next step for longevity and making sure that as you make changes, you're not breaking things. So that's good, again, at scale. So we have, let's say, we'll divide it into two. We have 5 minutes for each. First, let's say an employer has looked at our resume, we put Shark Tracker on there, and they're like, what's Shark Tracker? How would you answer? And I'll give you like 30 seconds to think of it. Put yourself with like, the interview brain on, the interview hat, and you're going to be thinking about how will I answer it? And there's a number of different ways. And so I'll talk through these 30 seconds. You can tune me out. Where you can use the STAR method, which I don't know about, but I don't frankly use, but I do know it's very successful for other people. There's considering the story behind it, which is what I tend to do. How do I tell a good story that still showcases my skills? It's a program I made to weird out a friend. Excellent idea. It's a program I made because it's a meme on the internet for the community that I'm part of. Now that asks more questions. Okay, so you're involved in a community. Now what do you do? And so there's different ways you can spin it. And it really just depends on the company that you're talking to, the person that you're talking to, and seeing like, do y'all vibe? Like, are they just like, like what's Shark Tracker and they don't care? And so you can be excited and motivated. And if they don't match you, that's okay, because at least you're passionate about this project. Or sometimes they're like, yo, like what's Shark Tracker? Like, this is weird. Like loop me in, and you can be like, there's a community out there called Blahaj Gang that's like obsessed with the Blahaj shark at IKEA, or like we wanted to make Bumble for sharks, which people who are on dating apps and other things like that know about Bumble and related, and they're like, I'm sorry, what? You want to what? So there's a lot of different fun ways you can do it. So in the 3 minutes we have for this part of it of just what's the story, I'll give you a quick version of how I would sell it, which is Shark Tracker is an application that I wanted to revive, where I originally made it to scare my uncle who hates sharks. And then I decided, well, I want to actually modernize it and make it Bumble for sharks so people can learn about the ocean. And so they can learn about who's in there, how often, and what OSearch is actually doing. So giving them a new way to interact with data that's already publicly available. And so that took like 30 seconds, less than that. And so then there might be follow-up questions of like, okay, but what did you do? And so then I can jump into, well, I used ChatGPT to generate funny bios. Notice that it was to generate biographies and not to generate code, which then has a different set of questions. I learned how to use authentication through Auth0, which is an open source library. I've never used Flask before, and I really wanted to see how I could use it, so I used Flask. And then coming back to it, I realized, well, there are better ways to do things with the knowledge I had 6 months later. So we refactored it. I learned more about programming principles like singletons, and I also investigated doc strings, which I learned more about how to, have clean code and self-documenting code. And so these are all not buzzwords, but things that you can then go and prove. And so, just a little bit more time left. And so I want to jump into the next section, which is, all right, seems like a really cool project. Show me it. Like, either run it for me or walk me through like 50 lines of code and tell me about what you ran into and how you solved it. And so now I might say, pull up my GitHub, which I didn't push yet. Let me also stop the debugging. And I can say like, yeah, I used SQLite to prototype my stuff. The database has gone through a lot of revision, which is why I specifically did drop table if exists. Or I can even go instead to that refactored page where I talked about singletons. And so I said, well, originally all of this was in app.py. And so app.py got to be over 100 lines of code, but it was all for different sections. And so, I ended up refactoring it, learning about singletons, realizing I didn't want multiple connections to the database at a time. I didn't want more than one instance of a database. And then I commented it because any new person coming in should be able to read this code because I made it open source. So that's like a 5-minute interview right there. And you have a clear understanding of what the project is, what someone learned, what someone did with it, and the fact that someone came back and made it better. Even in, again, we've spent maybe 4 hours over the last 2 days, and I've spent an extra 2 hours doing prep work for this. But because of that, now we have a pretty solid project, even though it's not done, even though the CSS looks like bad stuff. So that's the point. So we've done a quick sample interview. We do have about 10 minutes left. I do want to say, since this is the last workshop for my series of this, if there's any additional questions, I can spend a few minutes answering those. And if not, you're obviously welcome to log off, take a break before the next stream. I think actually it's an hour away from today in Global Hack Week. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns? Thanks for sticking with me. I know yesterday I was not 100%, which is why we spent so long reviewing the code. But it did make today better as a result of it. So yeah, thanks again for joining. And like I said, I'll stay on for a minute or two for questions. I think there were questions, ? Thank you. And thank you for reminding me that people watch this on their mobile because I forgot. And yeah, I should definitely gotta remember to zoom in more. It looks big to me, but it's not big to everybody else. So fair point. Let me blow my nose while I wait for more questions or any comments. No questions? No comments? Give it a little bit longer in case of stream delay, because there is very much a stream delay. Yeah, I wish I did not have a cold, but I don't have COVID, so it's great. I'm on the mend. Today I woke up feeling a lot better. As you can tell that we were a lot more active today. We were able to do a lot more stuff. My cat has stopped caterwauling through the hallways, so we shall see if she will still let me love her. Hey, welcome. So sometimes I'll do disability accessibility. Sometimes I'll do, hey, I don't know about this topic. Let's go learn this topic together. It's usually the theme of my streams. It's very slow, but it does mean that I have more time to talk to you about the theory or give you other additional resources about how to approach something rather than just okay, and then we copy this line. And then we copy this line because I don't like those kinds of things. I like knowing that someone is very present and natural and literally figuring it out as they go. And that's not to say the other MLH streams are not doing that. Some people do a lot more prep work than I do, making sure things work, purposely introducing bugs. Whereas I'm nah, we have a bug. Let's go figure it out. Here's how we figure it out. Let's read the code, read the messages. So you get a very real representation of someone coding live. It feels a little more genuine in that sense. But I try to challenge myself to learn something new every stream, whether on stream or slightly before. And by that, I mean 2 hours prior. And also have a pretty solid idea of, will you still learn something? Yes, probably. Because even if we don't make a lot of coding progress, we'll still make a lot of theory progress. And it'll be an application version of it. So yeah. Hello, people. You are joining in right as I'm jumping off. So or maybe you were here the whole time, in which case, thanks for staying. Yeah. So streams are usually GHW. I think we'll do opening ceremony and closing ceremony for our month-long hackathons or our hack nights maybe, but that's probably more on the Discord. So definitely, keep an eye on the Discord. If you are wanting more opportunities to interact with MLH or with other hackers, that would be a great opportunity to check those out. On the topic of other things, I like doing things that are collaborative. I really like when I have participation, particularly because then like you have ownership in the project we're working on together, which I mentioned earlier. Like if I'm doing something wrong or you know about a library that's better, like let me know, because I don't know things. I take a break 9 months of the year on coding, really, because I'm a PhD student in social sciences and not technically in engineering anymore, but still doing engineering. It's weird. Point is, I don't code for 9 months of the year. So this is my opportunity to somewhat stay current, but also connect back with the community that I am not like in all the time anymore. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, if you know better things out there, like, please let me know. The only thing, again, I don't appreciate like language bashing. I'm a all languages are equal kind of person. So yeah, every language has a purpose. It was made for a specific purpose. There's a whole like theory behind the way languages are made. I play Stardew. I play RuneScape. I should stop talking. No, I'm kidding. I don't play FPS because I get bad motion sickness, but I really like puzzle games or games with good stories. What else have I played recently? Oh, I've been obsessed with Mini Metro and Mini Motorways. Yeah, in my first week of Mini Motorways, I think I played for like 11 hours across the week because I had work and meetings, and I unlocked like 50% of the game. Ooh, there's some fun languages out there. I think there's a whole Wikipedia page that's pretty updated, that actually like has a lot. So there's languages that were made with a purpose, and then there's languages that were made with a fun purpose that shouldn't be used in production. That's the only like tiniest bash I'll ever do. But there's some good languages out there that you're like, people can type in this, people can use this. Dimmer's great. Dimmer has like top-notch streams. I love their streams. Cool. We've got about 4 minutes left, so I'll give time for like one more question or comment, and then we'll wrap up. And once again, while I like wait for any more, thanks again for joining. I know that yesterday was pretty boring, but worth it for today, I promise, given how much we got done today. So again, my streams are generally pretty slow, but there's reason to my madness. All right. Well, with that, I think we're done. Take a break, and then look forward to the rest of today's streams. I think we have another day of streams tomorrow. A bit of a shorter Global Hack Week this week, but we're always happy to have so many people join us. Oh, one last question. Be fast. Come on, let's go. Ooh, there's a Tetris minigame next. What? Oh, I do like Tetris. I do like Tetris a lot. I like old school games, actually. I like arcade games. I'm not a huge fan of Pac-Man because it's too repetitive, but then I'm like obsessed with Galaga, which is also repetitive. So like, Oh, well, okay. Well, enjoy to the rest of today's streams. As you can see, my brain is not on the schedule. Yes, somewhat, but you really took a minute on that question, so I gotta speed run it. I started studying hackathons in my undergrad, loved it so much and loved the community and loved the opportunity to learn so much. I ended up doing it as my PhD. I've been working on it for like the last many years. And I actually got a chance to meet a lot of different hackathon researchers over the last few weeks. So there's more of us out there, but everyone specializes in different things. So my specialty is typically collegiate hackathons, where I run a collegiate hackathon at my university, or at least used to. Now I advise for them. And so I really love learning more about how people are learning, why we come to these events, why the classroom how the classroom could be more supportive using attributes of hackathons, not putting hackathons in the classroom. And yeah, there's so much opportunity to explore. The research community, like outside of hackathons, is pretty limited. And so as a result, there's a lot of repeat work being done that us tiny group of hackathon researchers are like, yo, you're repeating work. Like, great, you posted your learnings, but like everybody else did that like 10 years ago. So they reinvent the wheel a lot. And so we're trying to like kind of fix that gap. But you know what? That's important. You should eat. That is important. But yeah, so that's kind of like the details, the speed run. I'm hoping to be done in the next year or so. It's time to be done. So yeah, definitely check out more of my streams. You're welcome to ask me more questions about hackathons and what I found out. And come join and learn with me, and hopefully teach me something new. I always love that. But we are definitely at time, so I'm gonna log off. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the streams today. Bye, y'all.